I now note that the hour has come. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance, will you please indicate that you are present when your name is called?
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. Councilmember Jones.
Present.
Councilmember Gaudier. Councilmember Phillips. Councilmember O'Rourke.
Present.
Vice Chair Squilla. Chair Driscoll.
Present. Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and the hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the Committee on Licenses and Inspections regarding bill numbers 250708, 250709, 250722, and 250733. Ms. McDonald, will you please read the title of these bills?
Bill number 250708, an ordinance amending Subcode A, the Philadelphia Administrative Code of Title IV of the Philadelphia Code, the Building Construction and Occupancy Code to revise penalties associated with stop work and cease operation orders under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250709, an ordinance amending Section 9-4403 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Enforcement to provide for the continuation of nuisance business enforcement following a change in business under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 250722, an ordinance adding a new chapter 21-3500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Utility Meters to prohibit provision of a second utility meter by a public utility at a residential property without evidence of a valid housing rental license for the property under certain terms and conditions. And Bill number 250773, an ordinance amending Chapter 9-4900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Prohibition on Use of Certain Bags by Retail Establishments to modify certain definitions, require retail establishments to charge a fee for the provision of a bag to customers, and require signage, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. I also note the presence of Vice Chair Squilla. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on bills number 250708 and 250709.
Deputy Commissioner Francis Healy and Sarah Adamo.
And before the testimony, I want to acknowledge our majority leaders here, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and a member of the committee.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to all of you. Today, we will hear testimony on bill numbers 250708 and 250709, which I authored, both of which aim to address nuisance businesses that are devastating communities across Philadelphia. And specifically, I'm referring to the businesses that apply for permits as grocery or convenience stores, but are actually selling drug paraphernalia next to expired and untouched grocery items. These businesses also sell dangerous and unregulated substances like 7-OH and Delta-8, and they attract crime and drug activity and operate without community approval. I proposed legislation back in 2021 that updated and modernized the definition of drug paraphernalia, making it easier to hold businesses that intentionally skirt the zoning process accountable. Since then, I've introduced several other related bills aimed at strengthening enforcement and better protecting our communities. The legislation being discussed today builds on my previous work to address quality of life issues in our city and aims to make it easier to hold these bad actors accountable. Following the related hearing on resolution number 250052 in March of this year, my office continued to work with community organizations, many whom are represented today, to develop legislation that will address some of the issues that came to light during the past hearing. Most notably, we learned of nuisance business owners changing LLC names, legal ownership, or making other small adjustments and changes to their operations to avoid enforcement. Bill number 250709 will address this by ensuring that any substantially similar business in ownership and/or operations will be responsible for the nuisance violations incurred by a previous business. We also heard from departments that there is confusion in the code regarding responsibility for enforcement, which makes it more difficult for the city to act efficiently and effectively. Bill number 250708 will improve our enforcement by removing specific language in the code, which will make it easier to issue stop work and cease operation orders. I wanted to take a moment to recognize our colleagues in council who have also been in this fight regarding these businesses that are wreaking havoc all across our communities in the city of Philadelphia. So special thank you to my district council person who was the first to work with us on this issue, particularly on the North 54th Street corridor. We appreciate your support, Councilmember Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Phillips, and also Councilmember O'Neill. Together, our efforts to combat these businesses has been aggressive, but the rate at which they are opening is just as aggressive, meaning we need to do even more to rein them in. We call them nuisance businesses, but they are more than an annoyance. They are harm for our neighborhoods, they disrupt our commercial corridors, they hinder meaningful economic growth, and we should not have to tolerate them in our city any longer. Today's hearing will hopefully illustrate just how destructive, widespread, and unchecked of an issue this is. And the legislation I hope we pass today, my colleagues, is an important step in ensuring these businesses are no longer harming our communities. Again, I want to thank everyone who took the opportunity to come here today to testify in support of this legislation. I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. And colleagues, I ask for your support for bills number 250708 and 250709. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember Richardson. And I just recall when I was a state representative and you were coming to Northeast Philadelphia to our business corridors on these very issues, and you have been indefatigable since in trying to get this right, and today's another step in that direction, and I applaud your efforts. I would like to recognize Member Jones.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and I want to acknowledge the author of these bills and her consistent laser-like focus on the issues. I do remember that walk up 54th Street. We went to 3 businesses in particular. What we were concerned about at the time, one was selling Lucy's. Those are individual cigarettes. The other had gambling machines in them. And what we noticed was that lawless nature, I don't care what L&I says, I'm gonna do it anyway because if I have to put it in my cousin's name, oh well. Oh well. And so if you look at what is created, Mr. Chairman and members of this committee, are watering holes that attract a element that is more inclined to do bad things. And what do I mean by that? They don't hang out at vegetable stands. You're not gonna find that element getting fruit. You're gonna find it at somebody selling liquor by the drink, cigarettes that are Lucy's, and gambling machines where they can pretend not to loiter and be in there and say, I'm playing this game. Now, we don't need to play the game. We really need to empower the Nuisance Business Task Force. I at first wondered what they were doing. They allowed me to be in a meeting once or twice, Mr. Chairman. They're like Elliot Ness. They're going out, they give them a fair warning, they let them know, and then they do their thing. So we need to empower them to be able to keep us safe. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I do want to recognize that Councilmember Anthony Phillips has joined us. We okay? All right.
I have a remark.
Member Phillips?
Thank you all so much, Chairman. I just want to briefly say that I'm so proud of the work of Catherine Gilmore Richardson and what she's trying to do for our city. There are, unfortunately, many loopholes that that comes with these bills, and unfortunately, we're not always able to see them. So I'm just really thrilled about that. I'm also thrilled about our paper bag legislation that's being introduced today, among some other things. And I'm just also looking forward to figuring out if there's any other loopholes during this hearing that we need to address as a city. I'm here to work on them together. Thank you.
Okay, can we call the first panel?
Deputy Commissioner Francis Healy, Sarah Adamo.
Oh, good afternoon, and please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Who would you prefer to go first, 08 or 09? Okay. Excuse me. Good afternoon, Chairperson Driscoll and Vice Chairperson Squilla, Council Member Gilbert Richardson, and distinguished members of the Committee on License Inspections. On behalf of Commissioner Bethel, Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill Number 250708. My name is Deputy Commissioner Francis Healy, and I serve as Chief of Staff, and I direct the Office of Legal Affairs for the Philadelphia Police Department. It's a privilege to appear before you on behalf of the department in support of this legislation, which seeks to resolve longstanding conflict between the city's civil code concerning the imposition of criminal sanctions. The Philadelphia Police Department supports this bill, which may appear minor on its face, but it's important because it removes the criminal summary sanctions for violations of both stop work orders and cease operation orders. The distinction is often misunderstood, but is critically important for how the city enforces its laws. In Philadelphia, the key factor in determining whether the rules of civil procedure or the rules of criminal procedure apply is not whether the provision is in civil code, but the type of sanctions it carries. Suspensions, license, or liens, it's enforced through the civil process, typically in administrative hearings with appeals handled in civil court, and the standard of proof is a preponderance of the evidence. By contrast, when a provision of the city code establishes a criminal penalty with the possibility of any incarceration, the matter suddenly becomes a criminal case under Pennsylvania law and must proceed under the rules of criminal procedure. This is an unintended consequence that's now being corrected. For this reason, the Police Department supports Bill Number 250708. And thank you, Chairperson Driscoll, Vice Chair Squilla, and sponsor, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, for your leadership and commitment to addressing this important issue. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Driscoll, Vice Chairperson Squilla, Council Member Gilmore Richardson, and distinguished members of the Committee of Licenses and Inspections. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of Bill Number 250709. My name is Sarah Adamo, Director of Zoning and Legislation for the Department of Licenses and Inspections Quality of Life. It is a privilege to appear before you on behalf of the administration to testify on this bill, which will amend City Code 9-4403. First, the administration supports this bill, which is intended to establish a mechanism that prevents corporations and limited liability companies from evading the consequences of fines, penalties, and other sanctions under the Responsible Business Operation Ordinance by simply dissolving and reconstructing themselves as a new legal entity to continue the same harmful practices. That said, we are currently working with both the police and law departments to ensure there are no legal issues with this bill. We will be sure to have an offline conversation with the sponsor of this bill before its adoption. In closing, the administration supports Bill Number 250709. This concludes my testimony, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Well, thank you, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Sarah, for your testimony. I would like to recognize Councilmember Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to Deputy Commissioner Healy and also to Sarah Adamo from LNI. We appreciate both of you. I just want to say for the record for my colleagues that the bills were written and drafted by the Law Department. We will look forward to working with LNI and PPD to clear up any, internal challenges regarding any language that was notated. We will make the appropriate and necessary adjustments, but I want to be clear that the Law Department wrote these bills.
Member Phillips.
I also just wanted to say formally that Bills 250708 and 250709, introduced by Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson, they are critical. And so the changes make enforcement fair, and I'm just hoping that this strong legislation that you all have the ability to make sure is enforced, that you have whatever tools in the toolbox that you need to enforce it, because it's just equally important that we get these codes right. I think it's unfair that some businesses in the city of Philadelphia try to find these loopholes. They get shut down, and then they open up under a different name, and we're back to square one in the community. Our community deserves better. So I just want whatever else you need, we're here to support. Thank you.
Member O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just want to begin by saying I appreciate the work that the leader, Majority Leader, has worked on towards this end. Important work to be done in the city, and so it's pretty cut and dry for me, but I find these hearings to be great opportunities for learning, especially as a freshman member of the council. And so I want to say that I agree that embedding accountability into the licensing structure to close loopholes is in fact needed. But you talked about a tacking ordinance, Commissioner Healy. Could you expand on that? What mechanism would that provide to hold bad corporate actors accountable for my ignorance?
Attacking ordinance is similar to, the IRS uses this concept for dealing with bad actors who do exactly the same thing, shift corporate form or corporate name. The issue is basically identifying those individuals that have a substantial ownership interest and then attacking, or actually then allowing the tacking. So whatever, if that bad actor would have done, if there's a percentage of ownership in the new corporation, then that would automatically attach to the new corporation. It would augment what the council members already provided, but it would be an augmentation, not an option in lieu of. It would be a good way to actually solidify the good work that the council members already put forth.
Education for me. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
We'll hear no further questions. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the next panel? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, sir.
Shalimar Thomas, Crystal Morris, Kate Allen, and Heather Miller.
Well, good afternoon. I guess however you choose to go in whatever order,
I'll go first. Thank
all right,
you.
please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning, Council President, council members, and members of the public. My name is Shalimar Thomas, and I'm the Executive Director of the Northbrook Renaissance, a nonprofit focused on the revitalization and inclusive development of the Northbrook corridor. Today, I'd like to share observations from our work and experience that may inform discussions related to commercial development patterns along North Broad Street and across the city. In recent months, we have observed a sharp rise in the number of smoke shops opening along a short stretch of the corridor. There's a smoke shop at 681 North Broad Street that appears to be operating as an unlicensed smoke shop drug paraphernalia store. This is within a 3-block radius of schools like Ben Franklin High School and Science Leadership Academy, and across the street from a child care facility. Hours of operations are Mondays through Thursdays at 10 a.m. through 10 p.m. and Fridays through Saturdays from 10 a.m. to midnight. There's a business at 836 North Broad that is operating as a smoke shop selling bones, THC edibles, and other drug paraphernalia. Hours of operations are at 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. This shop is also located in close proximity to schools and youth-serving facilities. Smoker's World, located at 859 North Broad Street, ceased by L&I on 4/11/25 for illegal paraphernalia sales and operating without permits. The shop appears to have resumed operating as a smoke shop. Operations are from 11 a.m. to midnight. This location has additional complaints for license violations and continue to operate as a nuisance business. This clustering trend raises questions about the long-term impact of neighborhood character, public health, and safety and perception of our commercial spaces, particularly in areas heavily traveled by youth. As a part of our business attraction and retention program, Northbrook Renaissance works to support a diverse mix of businesses, those already rooted in the corridor and those looking to join the ecosystem in ways that align with providing a good quality of life. We've seen firsthand that a balanced business mix contributes not only to economic vitality, but to a sense of place, safety, and opportunity. To that end, we offer the following considerations that may help address the growing concerns around commercial clustering and retail saturation. Number one, use zoning and licensing tools to promote geographic balance. Consider strategies that discourage over-concentration of a specific business type within a small area. We are not necessarily opposed to smoke shops that operate legally. We are opposed to the oversaturation in one area and having them in close proximity to schools and daycares. Encourage a diverse business mix. Incentivize or prioritize the recruitment of businesses that meet the needs of residents, families, schools, including healthy food retailers, youth-oriented spaces, and community-serving enterprises. For example, these businesses are opening in the North Broad's Arts and Culture District, and the area would be better suited for hospitality, tourism, and experience-driven enterprises. Third, establish a clear review process for new retail tenants. Explore options for strengthening public input or oversight in areas with high foot traffic from youth or vulnerable populations. And lastly, support corridor building businesses. Provide resources or incentives for businesses that contribute to the safety, local employment, wellness, and long-term investment of the corridor. North Broad is more than a commercial corridor. It's home to families, students, workers, and institutions that have shaped Philadelphia for generations. The way retail patterns evolve here has real implications for quality of life and public perception. We appreciate the opportunity to share these observations and potential approaches for a part of a broader dialogue about inclusive, sustainable neighborhood development. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Crystal Morris, and I'm testifying in support of the nuisance business enforcement legislation introduced by Minority Leader Gilmore Richardson. Majority Leader, I apologize. Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson. I'm here in my capacity as president of the Winfield Residents Association. Though I'm a Winfield resident, I know that my fellow neighbors all over the city are grateful for the introduction of this legislation as we suffer under the weight of non-compliant businesses. What constitutes a nuisance business? It's not just bodegas. It's also stop and goes, Airbnbs, smoke shops, any business that adversely impacts community quality of life. These businesses tend to be those that attract or tolerate undesirable behavior with a willingness to look the other way as long as they are profiting. This is pocketbook legislation. By affecting business owner profits, perhaps they will recognize that community members have had enough. We mean business because we are also in business, the business of community. We understand the need for quality businesses in our communities, and we build with intention. Thriving commercial corridors can be directly linked to a decrease in crime, an increase in walkability, and used as a measure of overall community health. Nuisance businesses rarely represent the best our communities have to offer. At first glance, these penalties may appear punishing, but they represent the level of consequence needed to send a compelling message. You are responsible for the impact your business has on the surrounding community. Your business is the problem, now be part of the solution. We don't look to impact anyone's ability to conduct business, just not at our expense. What is punishing is being a senior, afraid to leave their residence because of the large numbers of people congregating outside multiple convenience stores, and that feels threatening. What is punishing is being a property owner who can neither rent their storefront nor the apartments above because of undesirable activity and open-air drug transactions 24/7. What is punishing is being the parent of a child that must walk past stores selling drug paraphernalia on their way back and forth to school, knowing that children learn what they live. Since we can't get relational relief because of a refusal to collaborate, relief needs to take legal form. Nuisance business owners' rights have outpaced those of residents, with us bearing the burden of policing them. We know this legislation won't fix everything, but know that we boots on the ground are doing our part to fight for our communities. We need your help. Community members are tired of trying to color within the lines with broken crayons. Pass these bills with legal ramifications and give us the tools we need to effect real change. Thank you.
Well, hello. It's my pleasure to be here to testify today. I want to thank Chairman Driscoll and Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, along with the other distinguished members of the panel. I represent the 35th Ward and the Longcrest Community Association. Since 2001, we've faced severe quality of life issues due to nuisance businesses along Rising Sun Business Corridor between Cheltenham Avenues and Cotman Avenue, and also along Summerdale Avenue between Pratt and Oxford Avenues. We need to address the loopholes in these laws that allow these businesses to thrive while crime, drug activity, and trash problems escalate. It's crucial to enhance the enforcement and uphold these hold these bad actors accountable. I've had the pleasure most recently of walking these corridors along with my Councilman Dr. Anthony Phillips, along with other members of the community and L&I, where we've seen firsthand the selling of illegal drug paraphernalia, loosies, many of which children walk past in order to get to the candy bars, and seniors walk past to get to the milk. We need to address this as we have severe issues with crime and open-air drug marketing. Most recently, we've had another person gunned down in the street over the weekend. We have much crime and really poor quality of life throughout the 35th Ward. And we're asking for you, please, to pass this and to enforce these laws so that we can improve the quality of life within our communities for us, our seniors, and our children. Thank you.
Well, thank you each for your testimony. Particularly Heather Miller, appreciate your efforts. That's my old neighborhood that my 101-year-old father still lives, and I know that corridor there very well, and your efforts have not gone unnoticed. Dr. Phillips, the same with you. So any members would like to? Dr. Phillips?
Thank you. I just want to thank Heather Miller for being here today. This is something that, as she mentioned, is really important to our neighbors in the lower Northeast. Longcrest has undoubtedly experienced a proliferation of these shops. And I've been asking the law department consistently ever since our meeting last year and so forth, how do we figure out a way to not have as many of these shops on one corridor, right? And there's always this preemptive about this idea of like the state is allowing this, and I'm just saying like keep pushing harder, right? Because our neighbors are not understanding how can shops that are causing loitering, selling drugs to young people, as well as not being good stewards to the community in terms of cleanliness and all that stuff and more, how can they continue to be operative, right? And I feel like as opposed to our city really understanding what's happening with our neighbors, they're just like, it is what it is. And to me, that's not okay. And that's why I love with what Catherine Gilmore Richardson has put together, our majority leader, is because we're not okay with that, you know, and the response, that's why I'm glad we do these tours sometimes, because some of these people who are making these decisions on behalf of the city, they need to be in the neighborhoods feeling that pain. So when they're, you know, about to take their lunch break, they need to be constantly thinking about like, I need to figure this out for Rising Sun and for Winfield and so forth in North 10, because it's just not okay. There are some laws, but that doesn't mean that we can't find a way. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta make these people uncomfortable. And I just don't feel like the agencies in this city are doing enough to make these people feel uncomfortable with being a business that's not doing well in our community. So I wanna thank y'all for y'all fight. That's what I want to say. Thank you, Heather and Winfield and Agina.
Majority Leader Richardson?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to thank each of you for being here today, for the continued work that you've been doing with us. We've done tours in each one of your communities, as noted by Chairman Driscoll, over the past several years, and we are just hopeful that with this legislation, it'll close up loopholes that some of the business owners have been exploiting when we're seeking to bring them into compliance with with their nuisance business abatement plans. And so we found that, the more legislation we put on the books, they'll try to get around, the compliance in any way possible, even changing their LLCs to an entirely new business and trying to forego the violations that may have been on a previous business, but operating with, similar operations, same location. So we appreciate the work that you're doing in those communities. You all are reporting the business addresses to our office. We work in tandem with LNI and with PPD, and I have to thank Deputy Commissioner Healy because he's a part of the task force and, putting the boots on the ground on our behalf from a city perspective to, go out and do the initial inspections. And LNI has just been great. We have Renee that we work with very, very closely at LNI in order to keep a file that we have, a Google Drive with all of the businesses that are reported to our office so that we can track them in real time. So I appreciate the work that you're doing in your local communities. We thank you for being in this fight with us, and we're going to continue to work as hard as we can to bring this issue to a close. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McDonald, could you please call the next panel, please?
Could I just thank Councilwoman Gilmer Richardson real quick before I leave? Thank you to each and every one of you for hearing our thoughts and concerns today, but special thank you to Councilwoman Gilmer Richardson for leading this charge starting back in 2021 and continuing the fight. Thank you. Thank each and every one of you.
Elaine Petrosson, Meredith Ellison, Donnie Smith.
Two of us? Oh, okay, so we have more room.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with the testimony.
Thank you. My name is Elaine Petrosian, and by way of introduction, I am here to testify in full support of the bills that are being reviewed today. May I begin? Can I go? Okay. All right. I come to you wearing many hats. The first is I am a neighbor in the East Spring Garden section of Philadelphia. We are an intersection between West Poplar across Broad, Francisville across Fairmount, and then the eastern half of Spring Garden. I also come to you as a member of a community garden that was formed in 1992 on my block to beat back illegal drug sales and sex trafficking that was happening in that same community back in that time. I come to you as a committee person and ward leader in the 8th Ward, and our boundary is inclusive of a big chunk of the North Broad Street Renaissance Corridor, all the way down Broad Street, down to Lombard. And I also represent my Spring Garden Civic Association on the 9th District Police Department Advisory Council, Police District, Advisory Council. So I'm here today because in around the end of June, we have a smoke shop that opened up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's what I would call, to bring an example, a tale of two businesses. At 1500 Fairmount, both sides of that intersection, we have a long-standing business owned by two amazing Black woman entrepreneurs called Coffee, Cream, and Dreams. They are an amazing business. They worked so hard to do everything that this city would want to see in a new business. And they had the bad luck of opening maybe 3 months before the pandemic. Our community and their amazing relationships, we kept that business going, and they are the example of an amazing business that we want in Eastern Spring Garden. Fast forward to late June, we have brown paper comes off the windows across the street, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week smoke shop. But that smoke shop is on the same block as the Youth Emergency Services Shelter, also in the 1500 block of Fairmount. A place that has a sign that says safe space for minors to stay and get respite for short stays, sometimes up to a month, on the same block. So we've been talking about the impact. I want to tell you a little bit for this hearing about the impact. Neighbors are now trying to play what I'm going to call, Squid Games. We're just constantly trying to figure out what rule applies to which, and who do we have to call, and when and if will they have the ability to come out and do something. This is a game. I've heard that word. It's a game. And neighbors and neighborhoods are losing. Spring Garden, like every other community in this city, has fought and worked and thought and strived to revitalize commercial corridors, to bring life to a section of our city that was consistently disinvested, redlined due to racism and everything else. And now we have, as the esteemed speaker from North Broad Renaissance, all of those shops that she mentioned are within a 5-minute walk of this one. It is a brand new species, if you will, of predatory operation. And we have and so I don't need to go much more into the detail of all the impact, but I'm going to say I applaud and I thank all of you for what you're doing. I would like to see all district council members, including my own in the 5th Council District, to take as much zeal and as much intelligence and as much big picture thinking as the members of this committee and the sponsors and co-sponsors of these bills. Councilmember Richardson and her team cannot do this alone. And this, if I may be so bold to say, this requires accountability. We've heard that word. We're talking about it in Congress. Now we need it here. Hold the executive branch accountable. Doesn't mean we don't like them, doesn't mean we can't be friends with them. Hold them accountable, right? Say, what are you doing to make it easier, right? Tell the mayor's office. It is crazy that neighbors should have to figure out and wait for somebody from the health department to go to a smoke shop across the street from the Jesu School to do what is so obvious when the L&I inspector comes out, which is to see that they are selling tobacco and nicotine. Why that requires 2 calls to 2 agencies to do the obvious thing when it is across the street from a school, which, by the way, I'm going to say, members of city government walk by that, knew about it, and were like, yeah, that's a terrible thing, that shop. It makes my head explode. So that said, think bigger, please, as a city council. Convene a task force. So if we're going to talk about games, and I'll leave you with this, if we're going to talk about games, we need to level up, and we need to think about strategy games. Because here's what's coming down the road. Cannabis is going to be legalized. It's not whether, it's when. It'll happen. There'll be lots of pain and extractions of this and that, but it will happen. When it happens, this city cannot be on the back foot about legal cannabis and illegal cannabis, because all of the businesses that we hope will be reparative and good citizens who want to sell legal cannabis will be absolutely on the short end of the stick. In addition to that, we have to think about the state's role in this. We have to think about the executive branch's role in this in the city, and we have to convene a bigger picture approach while we are doing these excellent things that we need to do. And the last thing, which is controversial, property owners have to have skin in this game. If you're a landlord and you are enjoying the upside of easy cash rent and low tenants improvements, you should also have to face the risk of consequences due to downside. And the downside is nuisance businesses where we can't capture who's actually running it. The one on my corner, when we look at names of stakeholders in their public records, it all tracks back to other smoke shops in other counties in Pennsylvania. So the one we do know is the property owner, who, by the way, terminated the lease of Coffee Cream and Dreams. Why? Because they wanted some improvements. We have no way to give landlords any of the risk of the downside. They hide behind leases while the illegal weed sellers are hiding behind the walls of their rented facility. And at the end of the day, neighbors lose. So we need to level up, and we need to rebuild the game so that neighbors and this city can win and can thrive. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. My name is Meredith Ellison, and I am testifying in support of both nuisance business enforcement bills before you today. I am the community business advocate at Park to Broad, a nonprofit that supports the success of community businesses across Brewerytown, Fairmount, Spring Garden, and Francisville. The Philadelphia Commerce Department funds my position, and managing nuisance businesses is part of my organization's city contract. Brewerytown has a nuisance business problem that hurts existing businesses and neighbors and discourages new businesses from moving in. It is not a coincidence that the block with the most nuisance businesses also has the most commercial vacancies. On this block, neighbors and customers frequently report the sale of drugs and drug paraphernalia inside corner stores and harassment outside of them. These stores have been shut down by licenses and inspections several times, but never for good. L&I also confirmed that 2 businesses on this block share an owner, and the same business owner runs a citywide operation with similar complaints at all of their locations. The pending legislation would close loopholes, preventing nuisance business owners from creating new companies to escape the consequences of their past violations. This, paired with empowering L&I to make it easier to pause and close dangerous business operations, would create safer and more welcoming commercial hubs in Brewerytown and citywide. Park to Broad works closely with neighboring North Philadelphia community organizations, and business leaders in Sharswood and Francisville have shared similar experiences and challenges with nuisance business enforcement in their neighborhoods. Thank you for the opportunity to share Park to Broad support for both nuisance business enforcement bills and their potential to strengthen the business communities we serve.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Member at work?
Ms. Petrosian, thank you for your, did I say your name correctly?
Pardon?
Did I say your
Petrosian,
name?
yes.
Thank you for your testimony. I was, my ears perked up towards the end there around, I think I heard you talking about landlord accountability on this matter. Can you just speak a little bit more to that, if you don't mind, for my own enlightenment?
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy to. The example that I would use is one that I researched looking at our sister city, New York, 90 miles to the north. New York faced a similar, influx of these shops. Every city is different, and there were definitely lots of ups and downs and pitfalls in their approach. But one of the things that really struck me, once a operation has been declared illegal or a nuisance, right, under their framework, then the owner of the property was sent a letter from the city that said, the business operating at your property has been declared, a nuisance or whatever, an illegal operation. under the laws of New York, or this, whatever it was. And you have, some period of time, because every lease that anybody's going to sign as a landlord says you terminate that lease, that the tenant is in breach of that lease if they are conducting illegal operations. And so in New York, they issue a letter, and it says, your tenant has been declared or whatever as operating an illegal business or business illegally, and we expect you to take action under your lease. And then some period of time, the landlord has the ability to do what they need to do to either get that tenant to stop doing what they're doing or to commence eviction proceedings of that business tenant. And then beyond that, I don't know more about what happens, but that's the hook. It's the lease. Every lease has that language in it.
Thank you for that insight. I appreciate your testimony, and thank you as well for your testimony.
Elaine, I do think that's an interesting approach that we need to explore, holding the landlords accountable. I actually chuckled a little bit when you referred to these new businesses as new species, but I think you're right. And I think our job is to make sure they don't populate, right? So thank you for that. Member Richardson?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to thank Elaine and also thank you so much for coming to join us today. We appreciate the work that you're doing in the North Broad Corridor and in North Philadelphia with the businesses there, but also Elaine for bringing this to our attention, because what we found was initially when these businesses started popping up over the pandemic, they were in primarily Black and brown communities. Now they're spreading out all across the city of Philadelphia. And as Elaine notated, this was a major challenge and issue in New York, but they clamped down on enforcement. They clamped down. And so now they're running from New York and they're coming to Philadelphia, so we have to do the same. And we have to work with our city departments and our state partners to clamp down on these businesses, because we even found one location when we toured the 5th Council District that had no licensing to operate at all, like to be anything, to be a business or anything else. And so, we know that there's a lot of work to do, but enforcement will be the key, which is why we want to do all that we can from a council perspective to give our city departments who are responsible for the enforcement the tools necessary to do what they need to do to shut down these businesses that are operating without the proper zoning, without the proper licensing, and in violation of our city rules and regulations. And so that's what we're seeking to do today. We know there's more work to be done because at every time that we put forth another piece of legislation, something else comes up that we have to add to the code as a result of everything that's happening. But I do appreciate the work that you all are doing. While we're here at the hearing, I'm asking my team to give us an update on all of the businesses that we've been working on with you all over the past several, months now, because one of the locations I think didn't open. Initially, they were slated to open. So we're going to continue to do that work. We'll be sure to reach out to health as well, because I think that's another part of the challenge regarding some of the businesses that receive tobacco licenses. And so that's another challenge also that we have to work towards. So I thank you very much for the work. I do thank my district colleagues, because most of them have done tours with us. We've been out on the ground bringing all the city departments. We just have much more work to do, much more work.
Vice Chair Squilla?
You want to say something?
No, please.
Okay. I agree, and I think the key is probably holding the landlords a little more accountable, because they do hide behind that lease. When we reach out to them, we have these in every district throughout the city. The leaseholder says, oh yeah, well they have a lease. It's their responsibility to get the proper permits. It's their responsibility to do these things. And if they have some skin in the game, they would think twice about running to an illegal operation. And it's absolutely correct, as Councilmember Gilmore Richardson said, The businesses that have no licenses, nothing, and operate seem to be harder to close down than the businesses that have the licenses, right? So we got to do a better job with our coordinating efforts, with our departments, working with L&I and Health Department. And they are starting to communicate a little better now than they did before. A lot of it's from the advocacy of Crosstown and some of the other RCOs that have been really hammering on this, because everything is a fight. It's a one-off fight, but then you get to close them down, and then 2 weeks later they open back up, right? And so we do need to look at this, and thank you, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, for doing this. We probably would even need some more legislation as we move forward, working in coordination with our departments. But we also see another avenue popping up, and I had mentioned this to Councilman Gilmore Richardson, where we have a lot of these smoke shops that are BYOB, so there's no liquor license associated with them. So you could bring your own liquor in, and they get licenses for tobacco and smoking, and they're near a school. And if we don't have this coordination now, they're going to start proliferating all over also, and then doing the same type of things. So this is probably just a start, you know, but I think with the collaborative efforts of all of us here working with the administration, because we can't do this by ourselves, the neighbors can't do it by themselves, even the administration can't do it, but all of us together, I think we'll be able to come up with a process to at least make it hold people accountable when they are doing what they know is the wrong thing, but they found some sort of loophole to at least stay in business for a couple of years until they could change the name and open up somewhere else. So, but your accounting of this is very good, and I think we need to look at, none of these bills hold the landlord accountable in any way. So I think we need to look at that into the future.
If I may, I would say the other pieces that seem to be game changers included also much higher fines. You know, again, when the fines are relatively low, I mean, let's be real, okay? The shops that have, you know, potato chips and candy bars and whatever, milk, you know, they're not making the money off of that. That's not what's keeping the shop afloat. It's all of the substances, the kratom, I went into one that was selling urine. Urine. And guess why? I asked, because I don't care, because that's just who I am. Urine. So that, and the guy told me, he goes, well, because if you have a drug test, so you can use this. So they're not making money off of the sundries. And the grocery deserts in a lot of the city have been really mitigated. So it's not lack of access to groceries, it's these substances, right? And so the money that's coming in for a syndicate that's funding these smoke shops, and there are, I think, networks that are doing this, that are cash rich, these fines are ridiculous to them. It's ridiculous. It's like getting a traffic ticket. So in New York, they really made those fines high, and they started fining the landlords as well. And the last piece I want to say is insurance. These renegade shops aren't going to get insurance on their business, right? But the landlords have to, if they owe money on their building, or if they need to operate legally, or if they ever want to write a loan against it. So if you can hammer the landlord with these are illegal businesses and they're not operating within law and they're selling, you know, dangerous or outlawed products, they can't get insurance, right? So we have to level up this game, if you ask me, and I appreciate your indulgence.
I'm just curious, what's the going rate for urine these days?
For what?
The urine.
Oh, I didn't ask the price. I picked my chin I tried to, yeah.
Never mind.
But I didn't nope, God's honest truth.
We're good. Member Gautier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I wanted to thank the sponsor, Majority Leader Gilmore Richardson, for the legislation. We're certainly all dealing with this issue in our districts. I wanted to chime in on the landlord issue. I think that really is a need if we could come together around that. In my district, just one example, we've been working with a particular block in West Philadelphia that is basically being held hostage to drug activity and drug traffic on the block day in and day out. And so we've been like strategically trying to target the various properties that are a part of this criminal activity. And one of the properties is a smoke shop where some of the activity is happening, and that's kind of aiding the drug traffic. And, you know, a lot of times you aren't even able to find these people, but we were able to find the landlord. And I called him, and I said, will you meet with us about, you know, what we've seen going on in your store? And he refused, and he was unwilling to come to any kind of agreement with the neighbors. And he was like, these people pay me rent, and that's like the extent to which I basically care about what's happening at this property. And so I do think we need something that forces property owners to be more accountable than that, because neighbors are suffering. And then the second thing I wanted to say is that I am supportive of these bills. I'm supportive of all of the actions that we're taking around enforcement in this area, but I just want to also make sure that we're matching that enforcement with resources and capacity at budget time, because I often get the sense that even when we have the laws, we don't have the capacity, and that's the capacity to go out and not only to go out and cite and inspect, but the capacity to move things further from a legal perspective if we have to. Many times it just feels like we're continually citing the same businesses over and over again, and I don't understand what the progression is in order to really move these bad actors out of the neighborhood. So I just want to make sure that we come together as a council to make sure that we're putting the right resources in health, in L&I, and in the law department to actually carry out the enforcement to the extent that it needs to happen across the city. Yeah.
Member Phillips.
I'll yield to Majority Leader and my associate.
Thank you.
Leader Richardson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I agree wholeheartedly with Councilman Brigadier. We had worked with the Nuisance Business Abatement Task Force, I think it was last budget, where we added resources for L&I, for law, for additional inspectors, and also for additional attorneys because of the amount of cases that we were receiving. I received the feedback, and we'll be sure to meet with them again to do the same thing for this year because we're just being inundated. And I also received the feedback regarding the landlords, and I already have 3 new bills that we have to work on. We already had one as soon as we walked through the door that we're going to be working on with PPD, but also much higher fines, holding landlords accountable, and the third bill that we already knew of when we walked through the door. So it'll be our goal to get all of those done hopefully this session, Mr. Chair, if you allow, and we'll continue to work hard toward ensuring that we make the adequate requests in advance, well in advance of budget regarding the staffing needs as well. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Member Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. Just wanted to just say thank you so much for your testimony. It's really important what you just said, as Councilman Squilla just chimed me about a little bit. I'm not a big fan of bureaucracy. It gets me riled up. And what you just noted is issues with how we're processing and getting things done. No neighbor should have to go through several different departments just to get a simple thing done. And one of the things that I applaud what Councilman Brigadier just said and Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson is that, yes, we do need the resources. One of the things I just do want to add is that even with the resources, we still need to have these departments do a better job with processes. They need to find a way to have one line of communication or weekly conversations. Something has to be in place where, you know, there's a communication where it's not like, oh yeah, that's just public health. Oh yeah, that's L&I. There should be a level of stop tossing it. You know, just everybody needs to, if one department gets it, work on it. The other issue that we have in our district that we've done, and I'm constantly on this because this irritates me. This whole tobacco store thing irritates me to the ninth degree. And I'm behind closed doors every week talking about this with city departments. And it takes a lot. They're getting me to a point where, you know, I'm trying to work with folks, but eventually I may not get, you know, sustain my energy as much. But one of the things that I'm trying to say is that we just had a tobacco shop shut down. Why? Because they sold a Lucy to a young person, right? And then somehow, some way, well, I'm like, yeah, we did it. I got on top of them, right? We figured that out, right? Somehow, some way, they were open 10 days later. And so my issue is this, and this is in Northeast, this is in Oxford Circle area. If we found a way to shut you down, what are you gonna do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? So I think that there needs to be more harsher penalties, whether or not, and I said that, is there a way in which we can have a sense of revoking their license? And they're like, well, the state has all of these, you know, tough laws when it comes to, you know, keeping stores open that are tobacco selling, right? I said, I get it, but we just gotta keep figuring this out, because we can't have our community suffer because we're trying to dictate how we move based off of a state law, you know? So we did a curfew, you know, on these stores. A lot of them are closing at 12 o'clock. I did a bill that focused on drug paraphernalia in our district. If you want to open up a new smoke shop and you have drug paraphernalia, you got to go through an RCO process, but that doesn't legislate out. They can still do tobacco. I'm like, wow, I thought, you know, I don't know, it was all the same, but I had to realize that tobacco, they could legislate drug paraphernalia, but they can't legislate the tobacco RCO process. So all this is getting more and more complicated for me and for our city and our residents. But I just want to say that you keep this energy for me, right? And I think for all of us here to kind of keep working on it. So I just want to say thank you. You've reaffirmed my energy. Thank you, Chairman.
Sure. Well, thank you for your testimony. Ms. McDonald, I think we have one more panel.
Kate Allen.
Good afternoon. State your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. Kate Allen. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, first I apologize for my tardiness. I was on a plane about 30 minutes ago. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon. And I'd like to thank Council for their continued leadership on this topic. Helping good businesses open and stay open is paramount to the success of the city. But just as important is preventing bad actors from opening and staying open once they've proven that they have no intention of following the law or being a part of the community they're moving into. There are far too many loopholes that allow bad actors to remain open, and they know all of them. I've been president of the Queen Village Neighbors Association for the past 3 years and have spent a significant amount of time addressing nuisance behavior stemming from businesses in our neighborhood. During this time, we've had several successes regarding enforcement. We shut down a pizza place that was selling food laced with drugs and illegally allowing indoor smoking. And then we shut them down again a few months later when they tried to reopen. A smoke shop on Bainbridge was issued a cease operations order for illegally selling drug paraphernalia less than a block from a school. A smoke shop on South Street was issued a cease operations order for illegally selling drug paraphernalia, allowing indoor smoking, hosting entertainment events until late in the next morning, and operating without a certificate of occupancy. And then they mocked the city's enforcement efforts on social media. Several businesses have had their special assembly and occupancy licenses revoked after receiving multiple CVNs, including for incidents of violence. Several illegal speakeasies closed because we have made it clear that nuisance behavior will not be tolerated. These successes were directly the result of the collaboration between City Council, the police, L&I, and the community, all working together to better the city. However, for as much success as we've also had just as many challenges. A nightclub on South Street has received almost 10 CVNs in the last 3 years and generated dozens of police calls ranging from multiple aggravated assaults and gun threats to illegal drug use, disorderly conduct, and armed robberies. They had their SAOL revoked, yet continue to advertise events with DJs several times a week, every week. Another club near South Street has received multiple CVNs and complaints of nuisance behavior, including disorderly conduct. Multiple shootings have been tied to both of those places, where patrons have left these establishments only to be shot, sometimes immediately. That smoke shop I mentioned, that took to social media to mock the city's enforcement efforts, was operating for almost 2 years without a certificate of occupancy. I cannot understand, and am often asked, how something like that does not result in an immediate cease operations. And that's really unfortunate, because I cannot remember a time when there's been so much collaboration between City Council, the administration, the police, and the community. How often do you hear about everyone being on the same page? It's just not usual. But loopholes in the code are trying to ruin what everyone has been working so hard to do together. Bad actors need to stop being able to hide behind LLCs, which make it almost impossible to know if the owner of a new business was the owner of another business that was shut down. If your business was shut down for nuisance behavior, the consequences have to be severe enough to make you think twice about doing it again. And as everyone has been saying, landlords also need to be held accountable. Some of the businesses I referenced occupy buildings owned by the same landlord. How is it okay for him to sit back and make money on these businesses that are causing chronic problems and pretend like he's just as much of a victim as the rest of us? He also owns several illegal Airbnbs. One tenant has been regularly causing problems for near neighbors and has been cited multiple times for willingly operating without the requisite permits or zoning, and now claims that he's going to retroactively work to legalize all of this, which is so kind of him. It's one thing if you make an honest mistake and immediately work to correct the problem. It's completely another if you knowingly ignore the rules and only try to comply after getting caught. It's worth mentioning that I was recently elected vice chair of the Crosstown Coalition, the umbrella organization for most of the civics across the city, and am chairing a new task force to address nuisance businesses. During our meeting in September, I asked, does anybody have a business in their neighborhood that's causing problems? Everyone's hand went up. Then I asked if they were having problems dealing with that business. And once again, everyone's hand went up. They've had enough. And several people volunteered to join the task force, representatives from North Philly, West Philly, Center City, South Philly, and the Northeast. So these issues really are affecting all of us. So on behalf of neighborhoods across Philly, thank you for your continued leadership on this issue and taking the necessary steps to allow the spirit of collaboration to continue to be successful.
Leader Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Kate, I just want to thank you very much for your continued work and support, and thank you for making the trek down to City Hall from the airport and from the plane. We appreciate you being here and for your continued work and service, and we're just going to keep plugging away at this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Scola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kate, thank you so much, and I know you've been advocating this not only from Queen Village, but from a city perspective. Just a real quick, and not real long, but what do you see as part of the enforcement challenge? And we mentioned about landlords, and we know we saw that part of it. What other recommendations when you see from a community standpoint, because you run into these issues and you see you have to call this department and this department, what would be the best case scenario for enforcement and how we could then change, beside increasing the fines, change the access from us as far as getting the departments to coordinate together, whether it's on permitting, zoning. Some of the issues I know you had in the past where some people would get permits even though it wasn't zoned for them, right? It seems like we maybe got through that. But do you have any other ideas that you think would work, or that maybe you saw in other municipalities that you had shared with us before?
I think one of the things you mentioned is really the biggest issue. It seems to be the lack of coordination between the agencies, so helping everybody work more together would be good. The harsher fines would be helpful. So I'm trying to think of any other things that you didn't mention. You hit a lot of the big ones. I know we talk about this almost every day.
You can get to us, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you think of stuff, I mean, the Crosstown has been putting a list together of other nuisances that seem to be in the same area. And hopefully, once we address these, it would help to address those other challenges. So thank you.
And feel free to, at any time, give us input. And the same as the other panelists. Doesn't have to be just today on the record. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
Ms. McDonald, hearing no further questions for this panel and there being no other panels to testify on bills number 250708 and 250709, we will now move on to bill number 250722. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on bill number 250722.
Sarah Adamo.
Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Driscoll and members of the Licenses and Inspections Committee. My name is Sarah Adamo, and I'm the Director of Zoning and Legislation for the Department of Licenses and Inspections Quality of Life. Today, I'm here to provide testimony on bill number 250722, introduced by Councilmember O'Neill, which, if enacted, will add a new chapter 22-3500 to the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Utility Meters to prohibit provision of a second utility meter by a public utility at a residential property without evidence of a valid housing rental license for the property under certain terms and conditions. This legislation requires that property owners confirm that a property has an active rental license prior to the installation of multiple meters. This requirement will apply to residential properties with 3 or fewer dwelling units. While LNI is not expected to actively enforce this legislation, we do plan to continue to respond to any complaints that we receive regarding unlicensed multifamily rental units. If an LNI inspector is able to confirm that a property is being used for an unpermitted use or without proper licenses, the appropriate violations will be issued. The administration is supportive of the circulated amendment, which shifts responsibility to the property owner and which would exempt properties where a family may live in one unit and another family member live in the other unit within the same property, which would not require a rental license, but may require multiple meters to be installed. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on behalf of the Department of Licenses and Inspections Quality of Life. I'm happy to answer questions at this time.
All right, Member O'Rourke.
Ms. Adamo?
Hi.
Thank you for your testimony. As far as I understand, Bill number 250722 requires that for buildings with 3 or fewer units, an owner must have a rental license for all units before authorizing the installation of more than one utility meter.
Correct.
However, when doing new development or gut rehabilitation, for example, as part of a scatter site low-income housing tax credit development or a private developer doing infill housing on a vacant lot, having correctly installed utility meters is a requirement to get a certificate of occupancy, which is a requirement for getting a rental license.
I'm sorry, so you're asking if it's scattered property, like multiple single-family
It seems
properties?
like, yeah, that or a private developer doing an infill housing on a vacant lot. In effect, what it seems like is that it creates an unintentional catch-22, wherein to be able to have utility meters installed requires a license that itself requires having the meters already installed.
I don't think it's a catch-22. I think the order of operations is specific. This would require the rental license prior to getting the meters. But if it's, I do understand what you're saying. And
Yeah,
I think that the order of operations here is.
It gets a little clunky. I actually support the intent of the bill, but it seems like it's unintentionally creating like more red tape and obstacles for new development. I think there has to be a simple way to amend the bill so it doesn't actually create what I've characterized as a catch-22, but however you want to look at it, it seems like it makes it a bit clunky. I just wanted to raise that point, but thank you for
No, I think
engaging.
it's a valid point, and we can make sure that it's not creating any unintended consequences.
That would be super helpful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, that was important. Thank you for that. So thank you, Mr. Damo.
Thank you.
Hearing no other panels today on this bill, I think we'll move on to bill number 250773. I think your public comment, correct? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, so we'll get to you. Okay. Yes, thank you, though. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first panel we have to testify this afternoon on bill number 250773?
Carlton Williams, Director, Office of Clean and Green Initiatives.
Afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon, Chairman. How are you today?
Good.
And Councilmember Driscoll and the honorable members of our City Council. My name is Carlton Williams, and I am proudly here to serve as the Director of the Clean and Green Initiatives for the City of Philadelphia, and I'm here to testify on bill number 250773, introduced by Councilmember Squilla, which will do the following. Require retail establishments to charge a 10-cent per recyclable bag fee provided at the point of sale to customers, require signage informing customers concerning the imposition of such fees, and modify certain definitions. The Office of Clean and Green Initiatives was created to solve persistent quality of life problems and help build a safer, cleaner, and greener city. Our office achieves this goal by addressing quality of life issues like litter, illegal dumping, vacant lots, graffiti, and nuisance properties, starting in our city's most underserved neighborhoods. With regards to this bill, we support the modification of the definition of the plastic bag to simply define it as a bag being made from plastic and made through a full-blown film extrusion process. This will make the existing plastic ban law easier to enforce. We also support the intent of the bill to further Philadelphia's commitment to environmental sustainability and to reduce the use of single-use bags. We understand this bill aims to help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and mitigate damages to our ecosystem. While plastic bags are often viewed as more damaging to the environment, we recognize the environmental impact of paper bags too, despite them being biodegradable and easier to recycle or compost. For what we understand from the sponsor of the bill, the intent of this legislation is to induce behavioral change by encouraging reasonable, reusable alternatives. To achieve this behavioral change with this bill, paper bags and other ones used for delivery of order, drive-through order, or takeout order will have a cost of 10 cents to the consumer of each bag. However, we are concerned with some of the unintended consequences this legislation could have on our local economy, primarily the mom and pop businesses, by requiring retail establishments to charge a checkout bag fee. Adding this fee per bag may also ultimately push Philadelphians to shop outside the city limits to avoid this added cost and to put businesses outside the city when they consider compliance with the requirement as one of a more hurdle to doing business in the city of Philadelphia. The legislation could also disproportionately impact low-income Philadelphians by establishing our communities of color, especially our communities of color, without protections for the low-income residents, such as Philadelphians who use SNAP or WIC benefits to pay for groceries. Seniors and communities of color, this well-intended bill may unintentionally cause harm, especially given the current economy. On behalf of the administration, we appreciate the opportunity to testify today and are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Member Phillips.
Thank thank you, Director Williams. As you know, I'm a fan. You do incredible work for the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I just want to ask you a question. In the event of this rolling out, I know you mentioned your concerns, which I do understand. But in the event that this does roll out, have you thought about how Clean and Green will coordinate with like L&I, commerce, and sustainability on the enforcement education around this law?
We certainly have to do education as we've done with the plastic bag bill. That's been very effective. Certainly want to talk to the businesses about ensuring that it doesn't have those unintended consequences and try to come up with programs that will allow our seniors or those who are struggling to afford such things to come up with some kind of incentives to allow them to have access to them without having a financial burden. But it's important that we educate all businesses and consumers on why this bill exists and how it's going to benefit the environment over the long term by reducing the need to create new bags and save mineral and natural resources for the future. In terms of enforcement, it will be a challenge for us to enforce the businesses at locations, but we certainly will work with license and inspections and the Commerce Department to ensure through periodic inspections that the bills are being enforced and that bags are being actually sold and not given away.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges you mentioned, are real. Finding ways to get the businesses to know about this. Especially and also the public to understand, I guess, the environmental concerns that come with this, because, at the end of the day, the public is being hit, from the federal government financially, everything. It's and so there's a reason why we want this for the environmental concerns, but at the end of the day, if we can get the businesses to do something different, we won't have to worry about them putting that fee on the community. So
Agreed, council member, yes.
all right, thank you.
And Director, I was concerned too about these unintended consequences, and Vice Chair Squilla, has been listening. I know today he has some amendments in mind and some more to be considered. And so on that, I'll defer to Vice Chair Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you always for your great work. Taking into consideration that we've been discussing this bill and the plastic bag bill for quite some time, I think maybe 5 or 10 years or however long it's been. But we finally got to a place where we had tested the legislation, our previous legislation that banned plastic bags but allowed paper bags, and then we required a study. And the study then told us what happened because of the no fee was on the bag, and that we saw a big use in paper bags. Not that they can't be recycled, but the goal of the bag was to bring your own bag. Goal of the bill was to bring your own bag. And we noticed, especially in the underserved communities, that a lot of the stores that they frequent already do not give bags out, say like an Aldi, Save-A-Lot, so forth and so on. And so we work with a lot of those communities, and they are the first from our study that was done by the city, the first to comply, because they know what the impact is. They know that they have a bag, they bring it with them. And it seemed that the challenge more so was other folks who just didn't want to, or just periodically happened to forget, say, a reusable bag. So it's not that the bags will not be available, but the intent is if you had to pay, and now we did amend it from 15 cents down to 10 cents. If you did have to pay, you're more likely to remember to bring that bag with you and hopefully reduce the litter, reduce the environmental challenges and so forth and so on. And you'll hear some other testimony after, hopefully you could stay, on some of these from the study itself and from some of the things that our advocates have learned from working with the community, especially in the underserved community. So, but thank you for your testimony. Looking forward to working with you and continue to work with you in administration on this, and appreciate all your efforts.
Thank you, council member. Absolutely.
Member Phillips.
Thank you. And, Mark, you brought up something, Councilman Squilla, you brought up something that was really, really important about the bags that people do bring, currently reusable bags to their shopping experience. Yet, this is now going to apply to things we won't normally bring bags to, right? If you're at just earlier this week, I was at one of the food trucks, right? You don't normally bring a bag to a food truck or, certain other spaces. So I think that this is going to be, I would ask the advocates to, work with the city to figure out how to get these reusable bags out to the community, because the advocates raise funds, so they want people to use these reusable bags. It's important for them to get it out. And also, I think the advocate organizations should help us go into the neighborhoods that they're concerned about and help with the education. I think that would be great.
Thank you, Councilmember Phil. Just point of information, you are right, and we do need to get the bags out there. But prepared foods, food trucks are exempted from the charge for bags. So if you are getting food, cheesesteaks, halal, things like that that would be served that has food, prepared food in them, would be exempt. So that bag would not be part of 10 cents would not be added to your bill. But it is the advocacy and the education that goes along with this that really goes a long way. And again, it's not only like we talk about infrastructure sometimes and you change laws. It's also behavior. You have to change behavior. Over time, you do change behavior. And one way of changing behavior is having to pay for it, right? And so it's proven time and time again, if you do have to pay for it and you don't want it, even though it's only 10 cents, it's the mindset that I'm not giving them 10 cents for a bag. I'm just going to bring my own bag. But if it is prepared food and place that you're going, getting food that you're taking away, that is exempted from this portion of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as always, Director, thank you for all you do, and thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, Chairman.
You too. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the second panel we have to testify this afternoon on Bill number 250773?
Richard Metz, Maurice Sampson, Farhan Savitz, Diane Payne.
And before we start with the panel, I want to welcome Maurice Sampson. You may not remember me, but many years ago, as a young student at the University of Pennsylvania, I was an intern of yours, and I worked on the beverage containers here in our waste stream, so I know you've been doing this for a long time. Sorry to remind you of that, but I had brown hair and a lot of it. Anyway, I digress.
There are so many ways people are telling me how old I am.
I think it was pointed back at me too, sir.
I'm glad to see that you are here.
Thank you.
And,
Anyway, state your name.
Well, let's find out. Let's find out how much you've learned in all this time. My name is Maurice Sampson. I am the Eastern Pencil Director for Clean Water Action, and I am here to speak in favor of Bill 270733. I'm so grateful to be here to speak to all of you. I mean, I look at everybody here, and I've known everybody in a different place. I didn't realize till now. I'd known you even sooner, but really, there's history I have with everybody sitting here, and it just feels very much at home to be here. I also want to tell you, Councilmember Squill, it's been 8 years that we've been working on this. It's been 8 years. It's been 21 years since this legislation was first introduced. And just so that we can feel okay about it, Bangladesh, that did it the first year, their bill isn't working now, okay? So we can take some rectitude in knowing that we are putting a bill together that I think is going to be one of the best in the country. And I know how many sponsors there are for this bill, and I know how often I have spoken to you directly or to your staff, so you know the issues. So let me cut right to the chase and deal with the questions that were brought up by Mr. Williams, who was also a very close associate. At the last one of these hearings, I'm forgetting the number now, Councilwoman Maria Cuano Sanchez, she literally cut me off and let me speak. And then later when we talked, she made it really clear to me her concern about how this bill would impact the poor. And she asked me, would I do some specific research about Philadelphia and what it would mean here? And so I did, and I want to tell you, I was real surprised. First of all, I want you to know that first of all, I should say, this bill in Philadelphia is the first city where the bill was introduced and supported by people from the underserved community. They led the charge for the bill that finally passed, that they were the ones who felt deeply impacted by this. And particularly kudos to Trash Academy and to the folks there for organizing that group and bringing them out here. You remember the guy in all the bags, okay? It was very colorful the last time. What I found when I did my research surprised me. First of all, I want you to know that there is no foundation or basis in the idea that fees on bags will hurt low-income people. It is an assumption that is made out of the gate. There is no research, there is no background on it. The best study I found was from Duke University, and they make an assumption that because people can only have so much money for shopping that this must hurt them. But this isn't a tax. We're not taking something from people. We are putting a fee on the bag to send a message, because the first thing that happens, and this has been experienced across the country, when there's a fee on the bags, the first thing that happens is you ask the question, do I need this bag? Half of all the bags disappear in the first month. Because people say, I don't need a bag for a candy bar. I don't need a bag for many of these things. You need to know that reusable bags, the highest use of reusable bags has always been in the underserved low-income community. You need to know that every time these bills are passed, the first group that responds is the underserved and the community. The hardest people have a hard time for this are in the suburbs. Now, we can look at Philadelphia, and one of the things I did was start studying the supermarkets. We have 29 discount stores in the city who are specifically there to serve people with incomes of less than $35,000. Most of them have always charged for shopping bags. In fact, they don't load your cartons, they don't load your bags for you. You even have to rent the cart. Why is that? It's so that they can put the savings from not doing those things back into the food cost. It's 20% less cost to go to one of those stores than to go to a Walmart. These stores are specifically in neighborhoods that are designed to be close to folks. And I have to tell you, when you are in these communities, people who are less likely to have cars live in those communities. They're not using a paper bag or a plastic bag to bring their groceries home. They're using reusable bags. Okay? Any attempt to not put a fee on the bags means that they are now going to have to not charge for their bags, give them away, and raise their prices for the people who most need it. The plastic bag ban has been very, very successful in our large chain discount stores, very successful. Where it has not as much succeeded as much, where there have been no studies, is in the 1,500, 2,500 convenience and bodega stores. You need to know that a paper bag is 3 to 7 times more expensive than a plastic bag. And so to talk about having a paper bag and giving it away means I've got to spend more money to do that. Now, since those stores, and it's interesting because a lot of those stores don't give bags out at all anymore. Others of them are charging 45 cents because they don't want to give out bags. And others are still using the plastic bags. So if you talk about enforcing this bill, you're going to be going after the stores that are trying to save the money by using plastic bags instead of paper bags. What happens when you pass the fee? When you pass the fee, what it means is that every store in every corner now has a level playing field. They're all going to be putting a cost in the bag. So there is no perceived advantage of one store over the other. Actually, the union people told me the reason why they wanted the fee is because non-union stores can be supported by their stores outside of Philly, can give bags, at no cost or low cost, where the others have to eat the cost. So it's also a labor issue that also comes to balance when there are fees on the bags. The fee is not a burden, it's an inconvenience. The inconvenience of having to have a dime to pay for your bags means you forgot your bags. Most of us drive to the store, leave your bags in the car, put your groceries in the basket, take it out to your car, and load them right there. It's a new habit that has to be formed, but we can do that. You know, there are people who can't count, but they can sure count their money. You short them, they know that they got shortened. You know, the bags are 99 cents. You know how many plastic bags will go into that big bag? You know how many paper bags will go into those bags? You're not talking about more than 2 or 3 shopping trips, and that bag is paid for itself. So now you're not paying for it. And when the bags were free, guess what? All the costs of those bags went into the cost of all the groceries. It's $20 million. So what we're talking about now is the cost of groceries aren't going up as quickly. Why? Because we've turned the bags into a product. If you want one, you can buy one. In the old days, you could bring your own shopping bag, but you were subsidizing everybody who was taking as many bags as they wanted. The fee makes sense. The fee is equitable. The fee puts the burden on the people who don't bring their bag. Bring your bag, don't pay the 10 cents. We need to have this fee. I know that most of you have already signed on and are going to do it, but I'm a glutton. It's been 8 years. I want everybody to vote for this bill. So, you know, I think I probably made my point, and you can ask me questions if you don't. I do want to share just a few comments for people who could not be here. You may remember Tia Tynes. She was the very articulate and beautiful black woman who spoke at the last hearing. Very, very articulate. She lives in Fairhill. She writes, "The argument that single plastic bag ban and a bag fee are burdensome to communities like mine is extremely insulting and obscures the real burden. My community has been forced to adjust to so much, and some of the things quite unpleasant under such as illegal dumping from outsiders. However, I don't see that in a bag ban and fee, it's one adjustment we should be proud to be behind. It's not good for just us, but for the planet at large. Do you know what trash abatement is? It's the act of repeatedly cleaning up illegal dumping and litter. That is the real burden. The burden is subsequent health, mental health, cleaning from living in conditions that simply would not be accepted in any neighborhoods in Philadelphia. I encourage you all to pass this bill, and please, let's all go to McGillen's and celebrate, because it's been a long time coming. Thank you very much.
Okay, so first, well, then we have a little public comment, and then we're going to. So I just want to acknowledge that, the presence of our Council President, Kenyatta Johnson. Thank you for being here. And Maurice, thank you for your testimony. I am going to ask these two panels to be very brief, and I'll explain to you later why. We will accept your testimony for the record, but there's some urgent matter that has come up, and I just ask if you could be as concise as possible.
All right, I'll make this brief then. My name's Farron Savitz. I'm the Zero Waste Advocate with Penn Environment. We are a statewide environmental nonprofit. I'm here to speak today in support of Bill 250773. Thank you, Committee Chair Driscoll and the other members of the committee for being here today and holding this hearing, and especially thank you to Councilman Squilla for introducing this legislation and really leading the charge. The core of the problem that we're addressing with this bill is that in Philadelphia, like in the rest of the country, we just use too much stuff. We have a waste crisis. So much of the waste we generate are items like plastic bags, like paper bags, that we use for a couple minutes and then we throw them away. And plastic bags are really the poster child of this waste crisis. They never truly go away. They can last in our landfills and our environment for hundreds of years, if not longer. They practically cannot be recycled, and especially cannot be recycled in Philadelphia. So our only option is to send them to a landfill or to an incinerator, and they're replaceable. We have better, more sustainable, environmentally friendly alternatives that we can switch to. Also, an important factor when we're discussing this is where our waste in Philadelphia goes. I know that City Council and here in City Hall, there's been a lot of discussion about our trash, about the trash we're sending to the incinerator in Chester. This bill is an active step we can take to reduce not just the plastic waste, but all the waste we generate, to put a dent in the problem and take concrete, actionable steps to tackle really the trash we're generating every day in our lives. Now, I am going to skip over a lot of what has been said in the interest of time, because I believe Councilman Squilla made a very compelling case for why this bill is important, and as did Maurice. But I do want to say there's evidence that suggests this policy is needed in Philadelphia. There was that study conducted by researchers at the University of Pittsburgh and Swarthmore College on behalf of the city, looking at the effectiveness of the city's plastic bag ban. And what they found was that the law was effective at tackling plastic. There was a 93% decrease in plastic bags used at grocery stores just 1 year into the law going into effect. But that study also found that paper bag use in the city more than doubled. In fact, it almost tripled. And although reusable bag use did increase, according to that study, the biggest increase was in paper bag use. And that is, again, waste that we have to tackle here today. This bill would fix these issues. Philadelphia can be a leader in tackling waste, in tackling plastic pollution, just as it was several years ago when it first passed this law. The bill has two main purposes, as we've discussed. It's to clarify definitions, and it's to impose that fee on other bags provided by retailers, both the paper bags and also any other bag a retailer provides, so that we are really encouraged to bring our own bags from home. The definitions clarify that no real retailer can provide these plastic bags, whether it's in person or through takeout or delivery. The fee, although it does not apply to the takeout and delivery, does apply to any bags being given out by a retailer. And the definitions of the bill also clarify what's meant by a single-use plastic bag, where we've seen in the city an influx in bags that retailers attempt to think comply with the law or propose as more sustainable alternatives. Thicker plastic bags that they claim are reusable, bags that are biodegradable or oxo-degradable or compostable that they say are more sustainable alternatives. When it comes down to it, all of these alternatives are still plastic bags. They are still bags that we use for a couple minutes and we throw them away and they can't be recycled and they're causing harm to our environment, our streets, our quality of lives. And so by clarifying these definitions, we include all of these different bags under the definition of a plastic bag so that we can actually make it clear anything made of a flexible plastic film will be included in this law. And these changes are important. Plastic bags are the worst option we can use when we're shopping if you're comparing it to the plastic, to the reusable. And so encouraging people to do the best option, to bring their own bag from home, to reuse it over and over and over again is really what we should be using and incentivizing in Philadelphia. When done in other cities like Chicago, like Washington, D.C., these fees have been incredibly effective at reducing waste, not just from plastic, but from all types. And it's also important because the majority of these laws in Pennsylvania include fees like these on paper bags, on reusable bags. When Philadelphia passed its law, there were only 2 other plastic bag laws in the state. There are now over 40, the majority of them in the collar counties surrounding Philadelphia. So Philadelphia has been left behind by some of its neighbors, and we have a chance to take the lead again and take the lead in tackling waste, in tackling plastic pollution, and putting a dent in the problem. I'll submit the remainder of my testimony to the committee, but I'll wrap it up there, and I'm open to questions if people have them.
So we need to move this along for safety concerns. So if you can be as brief as possible.
My remarks are 2 minutes, but I will try and make it less than. I timed myself. My name is Diane Payne. I'm from Northeast Philadelphia. I'm a member of 215 People's Alliance. And Mr. Phillips, you are my councilman. Thank you for your work on this issue and all of our clean and green. I wish to add my voice in support of the paper bag fee that is coming up for a vote. I hope all our elected officials, like Maurice said, will vote in lockstep on this and see the wisdom in instituting such a fee for the benefit of us all. I know that there is some concerns about a fee negatively impacting low-income people, but it is low-income people who bear the biggest brunt of litter and pollution. Not to mention that those free plastic bags given out in stores are not really free at all. Those costs are pushed down as hidden costs. Council members can address this concern of bag fees by having reusable bag giveaways at offices and at neighborhood events. I brought today my own plastic bag that I picked up as I walked in my local park with my dog. I keep this bag in my car, and now I use it as I walk in Pennypack to pick up additional trash along the way. The ubiquitous presence of plastic in our ecosystem is harming our environment, and as increased research comes out, the dangers only grow. A recent article in Yahoo News sounded the alarm about tiny pieces of plastic turning up not just in oceans and soil, even inside our human bodies. It is time for all elected officials to acknowledge plastic as a problem. A plastic bag fee is a way to work on changing behaviors. Multimillionaires have inundated us with products and advertising that has shaped our consumer practices. We must reclaim from them our right to clean and green environments. This is a step. It is a step that is doable, easy, and has positive outcomes. I'll say it again, plastic is a problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, panel. In the interest of time, Mr. Sampson, so good to see you again, and my former boss, and thank each of you, and I'm sorry we had to rush this, but we appreciate you being here and your testimony.
Thank you so much. See you Thursday.
Being no other panels to testify on the bills before the committee today, we'll now transition to our public comment section. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the first person making public comment we have to testify this afternoon on the bills before this committee today?
Garrett O'Dwyer.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Driscoll, Vice Chair Squilla, and members of City Council's Committee on Licenses and Inspection. My name is Garrett O'Dwyer. I'm the Policy Director for the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, or PACDC. Thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony on Bill number 250722, which would require utility companies to ensure that a property with 3 or fewer dwelling units has a valid housing rental license for each of the units prior to installing more than one utility meter. We support the aims of the bill's sponsor, Councilman O'Neill, to increase adherence with city building codes, inhibit illegal conversions, and increase compliance with rental license requirements. PACDC is the leading voice of nonprofit community development organizations in Philadelphia. Our 60 CDC members and over 100 additional associate members are responsible for addressing key affordable housing, social service, and economic development needs across the city. The illegal conversion of single-family homes into multifamily rental units is a concern in communities across the city. These conversions can present health and safety risks that jeopardize the well-being of both residents and neighbors during construction and in the long-term operation of the units. Those who operate these illegal units are similarly more likely to fail to comply with other basic landlord requirements, which can put tenants at significant peril, particularly financially. By neglecting to comply with proper permitting and rental licenses, these properties also impede the ability of the city to track and respond to deteriorating conditions. Moreover, by subverting the city's building and rental requirements, these conversions diminish the capacity of community residents to have a voice in the type and scale of developments occurring in their neighborhoods. For these reasons, PACDC supports the goals of the bill's sponsor and applauds the novel approach of requiring utility companies to condition installation of more than one utility meter on adhering to city requirements. We do have concerns, however, about unintended consequences that could result from the way the legislation is structured as originally written. Bill number 250722 22 would require that for buildings with 3 or fewer units, a utility company must have evidence of a rental license for all units before installing more than one utility meter. However, when doing new development or gut rehabilitation, for example, as part of a scattered site low-income housing tax credit development or a private developer doing infill housing on a vacant lot, having correctly installed utility meters is a requirement to get a certificate of occupancy. This certificate of occupancy is necessary to get the valid housing rental license required by the bill. In effect, this creates an unintentional catch-22, wherein to be able to have utility meters installed requires a license that itself requires having the meters already installed. We believe that this could be resolved by alternatively requiring utility companies to receive L&I approved permits or plans that demonstrate the legality of the units being constructed, and I understand that there's an amendment to this effect possibly being worked on. We're confident that such an amendment would, if adopted, would meet the goals of the bill's sponsors without creating the unintended consequences discussed. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
First, thank you for your patience, and thank you for testifying. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the next person making public comment?
There are no more names for public comment.
Well, I'd like to thank all of our witnesses for joining us today. There being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify on bills number 250708, 250709, 250722, and 250773, I will ask if there's anyone else present in this hearing whose name we failed to call and that wishes to offer testimony on the bills being considered today. Hearing none, I want to thank the panels and the witnesses for their participation today. We value your opinions. This concludes the public hearing of the committee. We will now go into a public meeting to consider the action to be taken on the bills before this committee today. Ms. McDonald, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are present, please indicate that you're here.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Gaudier, Councilmember Phillips, Councilmember O'Rourke, Vice Chair Squilla, Chair Driscoll.
Present. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to bill number 250708.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to bill number 250708. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to bill number 250708 be approved.
The chair recognizes that Leader Richardson seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 250708 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries, and the amendment to bill number 250708 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on bill number 250708 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the bill number 250708 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 250708 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further moved that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to bill number 250709.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to bill number 250709. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to bill number 250709 be approved.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Richardson seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 250709 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries, and the amendment to bill number 250709 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on bill number 250709 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that bill number 250709 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gaudier seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that bill number 250709 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further moved that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to Bill Number 250722.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to Bill Number 250722. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill Number 250722 be approved.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gautier seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill Number 250722 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries, and the amendment to Bill Number 250722 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 250722 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Bill Number 250722 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at our next session of council.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gautier seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 250722 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to Bill Number 250773.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill Number 250773. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill Number 250773 be approved.
Chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gautier seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill Number 250773 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying ayes.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. The motion carries, and the amendment to Bill Number 250773 has been approved. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 250773 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the Bill Number 250773 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gautier seconds the motion. It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 250773 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further moved that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. This concludes the business before the Committee on Licenses and Inspection today. Thank you all very much for your attendance.